Moro moro, and welcome back to Culinary Role-Playing, and into the show How It Plays. Like always, we are taking a look at tabletop role-playing game. First, I will give you guys a quick overview of the game. We take a look at 2 example characters and talk about how the characters work. And finally, I will give you guys a solo demonstration of the system, so you guys can have an idea of how the game actually plays. And today's game is a game that was highly requested by you, my dear subscribers and viewers. Thank you for this great recommendation. And honestly, I want to hear more about you. Please keep commenting on down below in the videos on what systems would you like to see on How It Plays. Because I definitely see that my first job as a content creator here is to serve the audience that what you want to see, so that my videos can be as helpful and as informative about the things that you are interested in. And that's why today we are going to take a look at Scarlet Heroes by Kevin Crawford. Kevin Crawford as a writer and game creator, but also Scarlet Heroes as a game, I think it's one of the cornerstones of especially solo tabletop role-playing. Because we have games like Iron Sworn, which is this very open world narrative-based system. We have 1,000-year-old Vampire, which is more focused on journaling and creating that kind of experience. We have games like 4 Against Darkness, which is more of a that functions as a solo dungeon crawling game. And then we have Scarlet Heroes, which is basically your gateway to solo OSR gameplay. And to be completely honest, right now it's the gateway for solo D&D play as well. And of course we have Mythic GM Emulator, which is like the Oracle side of Cornerstone. But right now, when it comes to like solo dungeon crawling, playing a lone character, it doesn't get much better than playing with Scarlet Heroes right now. And because of the OSR roots and the modularity of the system, you can mix and match the rules from Scarlet Heroes with many types of OSR games. And I have talked about Kevin Crawford in the channel before in my top 3 RPGs video and in my many other tabletop role-playing videos, just because Kevin Crawford is a phenomenal game creator. Like just the way Kevin phrases the rules and just everything, there's so much to learn from. As a new tabletop RPG creator myself, I really feel like just the way Kevin writes the rules and overall like the rule layout, it's just, there is so much to learn from. And now I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So hit that like, subscribe, and let's go. Like the Scarlet Heroes book itself, it's like 133 pages long. But Kevin has summarized the most used rules in this one column over here. This is directly from the book. And when you have a game system that can be summarized in one column, you have done something right. So, what are the main 4 major mechanics that the game uses? First of all, we have checks, and checks are basically whenever something in the fiction is uncertain and you have a feeling that your hero might not succeed in that task, then we do a check, which is basically, you think about the 6 attributes that the game has, which are the classic strength, dexterity, constitution, intellect, wisdom, or charisma. Which one of these 6 attributes we are trying to test here? Just say our hero tries to force open a blocked door, so that would be definitely strength. And then we also try to think about our hero's traits and backgrounds, which are basically in this system. If we take a look at our first hero, Takino, for example, here we have our attributes and the modifiers. So we have strength +2. Then we will take a look at the traits and abilities, which are basically your heroes, all of their other learning, like their skills, their background, their history, or their possible special talents. These things are all emulated with the traits and abilities. So I would argue now that forcing open a door requires a lot of athleticism, it requires a lot of strength, and it requires like understanding of physicality and physics. So I would say that this definitely is something that being a blade master of Emberbind Pie would benefit from. So then we can see, okay, so I have 3 here on that background, so we can actually add this 3 to our modifier of force strength, which is +2. So now we would get a +5 to this roll. And then we would think at, okay, a stuck door, what kind of door is it? Is it kind of like this huge, massive kind of iron gate that has been stuck, which would probably be hard or extreme? Or is it just this kind of simple cottage wooden door, which could be actually kind of simple? So let's say it's something on the middle. Let's say it's an average door, which is this kind of, it has some iron framing. It's a wooden door, but with iron framing, and it's like a double door of this kind of dungeon hall. But it's not like a massive, it's still like regular size, but it's a double door with iron frame, so it's on average. And when we roll checks, we actually take 2d8 and we roll these 2 dice at our modifiers, and if the final result is over 11, then we have succeeded. So now if I just roll the dice, ooh, that's actually really bad. 1 and 2, 3 plus 5 is 8, so no, we wouldn't open even a simple door. So we would fail the task and the door would not open. Now, some of you might ask, especially if you come from other OSR games or Pathfinder or D&D 5th edition, like 2d8, so we are not rolling d20 on checks and stuff? Good observation, that is exactly right. I think in this case Kevin has been inspired by other skill-based games like Traveler, for example, where Kevin has wanted more stability and predictability in skill checks and saving throws. And it all comes from the probabilities of the 2 dice compared to a single dice. Because when I roll a d20, I have equal chance to get 1 or 20 and everything between. It's all as likely going to happen. But when we have 2 dice, that will create a bell curve in the probability scale, which means with 2 dice it's going to be more probable that we will get a result somewhere from between. That's why we call it the bell curve, because the probability in the middle goes up, so it creates this kind of bell looking curve. So it's not a flat line like we would roll with d20 or d6 or only single d8. So mechanic number 1, checks. 2d8 attribute plus trait if it's usable. You might sometimes just roll your attribute, and we will roll that against a difficulty check. And here we have the different difficulties. That is the first mechanic. Second mechanic are saving throws, which work basically the same as checks. The only thing that is changed is where does the difficulty come from. So saving throws are used when we are trying to evade a direct harm. That could be a trap, that could be a spell, or that could be some kind of other hazard. Let's say, for example, if a 3rd level wizard would try to cast a spell on Valanor, our 2nd hero, and let's say it's a spell of mind alteration. This enemy is trying to take control of Valanor's mind. We could say it's either battle against intellect or battle against wisdom. And let's give Valanor benefit of the doubt, and let's say it's the battle of intellect, mind. So let's use int +3. And now we know that Valanor is Frost Wizard of Emberbind by 3. They are also court-educated charmer 1, and they also have elven senses 1. Let's say that being familiar with inner workings of the magic gives Valanor an advantage in a sense that they may use their background 3 for this saving throw. So now we have our int, which is +3, plus our trait, which is +3, so we get +6 to this saving throw. And the difficulty you have to beat is always 9 plus the hit dice all level of the creature, forcing the saving throw. And we said it was going to be a 3rd level caster, which means the difficulty for this would be 12. Now we take 2d8 and we roll the dice. It's not good again. 1 plus 5 is 6, and 6 plus 6 is 12, which is exactly the number, and I think that will succeed. Yes, because here it says that if the total is equal or higher than the check's difficulty, so we will Valana would just succeed on that saving throw. It's really neat system that you always use your attribute or your background if applicable, so it's really concise, really nice. And with attack rolls, which is our third mechanic, we go back into rolling d20. So d20, now when we have equal chance to get 20 and 1, it always emulates the chaos of the battle and that everything can happen, and it's much more uncontrolled environment. And how we do attacks, we take d20, and again we will consult our different attributes. For example, if we would attack with the Blade of Masters. Blade of Masters is a longsword, which means we would use strength for the attack roll. So we take the modifier of 2, and I have actually here counted together. This would be actually 1 because we are a level 1 warrior. So level 1 warrior has +1 bonus. So now combining strength with attack bonus of 1, that would be +3. And then we also have a Blade of Masters, which is this magical weapon, which would also give us +1 to hit and damage. So the end result would be, with the weapon of Blade of Masters, we would have +4 to our hit. How, by the rules, you would do your attack, you would roll d20, and now you would add this final +4 that we got, and then you would consult the creature's armor class. So if we would take a look at bear from the book itself, we have two kind of bear. We have black bear and cave bear. And we would also take the armor class and add that to our roll as well. So now we would have +4, and if we would attack a cave bear, we would add this +5 to our roll as well. So that would be +9. And now we would roll the dice, and I get 12. +9 is 21. If it's over 20, if it's 20 or over 20, we would hit the target. And this is Kevin's way of trying to simplify, because the armor class are from classic D&D's descending armor class, which means the lower the armor class is, the more harder to hit the enemy is, which is very counterintuitive, and that's why most people have decided to use ascending armor class from the more modern, like 5th edition D&D, where the armor class is the level that you have to beat in order to hit the enemy, which is really easy to do. You could basically just take this and -20 and you got your AC. So this would be 20 -5, it's 15. You have black bear, which is 20 -6, it would be 14. A lot more simple to do. A short history time. Why we have descending AC? Where does it come from? So the idea of descending armor class was taken from a battleship game into D&D. And the armor class was basically emulating the ship's size and its maneuverability. So of course, the smaller the ship, so the smaller the armor class, more maneuverable the ship was and more difficult it was to hit. That's why the armor class was going down, and that's why it was a lot more harder to hit things on lower levels. But that would normally mean the lower your armor class, also the lower your hit points was. And HP was hull points originally. But at some point the armor class also started to emulate how thick your armor was, and that's why it was more difficult to hit you. So the more and more the idea of ascending armor class just became very weird. And the Kevin's idea of just adding it to your hit roll is to simplify the descending armor class, but I would even modify that a little bit more and just say, if you're using the enemies from Scarlet Heroes, just look at the armor class, take 20, and that is your AC that you are trying to hit. Which is basically the same thing, like the math is exactly the same. I'm just doing the math beforehand. But using it this way that I was describing it to you, you can also use creatures from like basic fantasy and old school essentials, which also have the ascending AC option. So yeah, history lesson over, but if you have ever wondered where all these names and things come from, that's the history and the origin. And I'm not expert at it. There is a lot of great videos about these things. I might leave you actually some history videos in the links down below if you're interested. And finally, the fourth mechanic of the game is damage rolls. And this damage roll is mostly the secret sauce and probably the most referred rule in the system, because this is the rule that helps you play old school games in solo. It's simple and it's very effective and it's really good rule. And I'm actually using it on my own playthrough of NPC adventures in my channel right now. So we have the same different sizes of dice that we roll damage with. That is the same as always. But instead of rolling the dice, and if I would roll a 6 from D8, I would do 6 damage. We don't do that here. Instead, we have this damage table over here. So with a single dice, I can make maximum of 4 points of damage. And what is important to note here, that single dice is a single instance of damage. So that means if I would have a spell that would do a 3d6 of damage, that doesn't mean when I roll the dice, I would... I'm rolling so badly. I have 1, 6, so at this point I would not add these together as an 8 and I would do 2 points of damage. No, I would look at each dice individually and see the table. So now I have 1, which means none of the damage. I have a second one, that means none of the damage. And then I have 6, I would do 2 damage. But for example, if I would have 3 out of the other die and then maybe, let's say 4. So now I have 6, 3, 4. Then I look at dice again. So 6 would be 2 damage, 3 would be 1 point of damage, and 4 would also be 1 point of damage. So I would do overall 4 points of damage with this roll. So this will bring down the damage numbers a little bit, and that makes characters, even in low levels, much more survivable. And with enemies, we still use the term hit dice, which has normally mean that we have a creature die of d6 at some games, and some games in OSR it's d8, and we would roll 4 d8, and that would determine the hit points that the creature has. But in Scarlet Heroes, the hit dice is the number of hit points the enemies have. So Black Bear would have 4 hit points, Cave Bear would have 7 hit points. So this means it's much more probable for heroes to take out multiple enemies and survive, which would be unquestionable in regular OSR. As a first level adventurer, take out 3 characters. That would be really difficult. It's still possible, but it would be really difficult. But Scarlet Heroes is about lone wolf warriors and heroes going through different adventures and taking multiple enemies out by themselves. And final extra thing that is really important to talk about is the Fray dice. So different classes have different sizes of Fray die. Fray die is basically instance of free damage per every battle turn. As a warrior, I could roll my d8, and if I would example get let's say, well, for the sake of example, let's say I get 7. So that means I have 2 points of damage that I can distribute freely to anyone who is either the same level or lower than me. And level can be either level like other heroes or the number of hit dice the enemy has. That is basically also the enemy's level. So that is also narrated in a way that if there would be 3 level 1 creatures that are gaining up on this lone hero, the Blade Master would first roll their attack and probably get 1 hit in, and then we would have the Fray die and create that 2 extra points of damage that we can also distribute on different enemies. With your attack roll, I think you can only hit 1 target, so you can't distribute damage on your normal attacks, but with Fray die you can do that. And with Valano and with magic users, the Fray die is only d4, so you can ever get only 1 hit point of extra damage. But with the Fray die used by mage user, they can distribute that damage to any creature. So even though this creature would be higher level or with bigger hit dice, mage user can, if they roll that 1 extra damage, they can use it. And this happens every turn of the battle. And that is all rules there are to play Scarlet Heroes. We kinda established a lot of things from the character as well. At the start of the game, while creating your hero, you will roll your beginning attributes, then you will roll your hit points, you will determine your armor class, which I have now also changed and modified into the ascending armor class, so that's why these numbers are so big. We get our attack bonus, which comes from your class. We have thieves, clerics, magic users and warriors by default within the system. So really simple stuff. And we also get the Fray die from our class. And what is little extra for this game is those extra beginning traits that gives you like your skills and background and stuff. But basically it's like you have 3 points to put on any background facts that you want. We can be Frost Wizard of Emberbind by, and it's up to us to determine what that means actually within the fiction. Like when I can use this trait. And as being an elf, we get an extra 1 for elven senses, which are like we have very keen hearing and seeing and all that stuff. And then we also had like our other prior experiences as an elven society, so that's why I put court educated charmer. With Takino and as a human we get the base 3 like everyone else, and then we can distribute extra 2 points on any backgrounds that we choose. So really easy, really open-ended. And then you just decide your gear. I'm going very light on this one. I don't have any rations or anything like that because I'm just here demonstrating and one solo instance with you. But I think you get 3d6 times 10 of gold and you can buy equipment freely as you choose. And of course, as a magic user, we get some spells, and as a first level mage we can prepare 1 level 1 spell. But as a mage, I think at the start we can learn 1 plus our intellect modifier amount of spells. And that's why I have 4 spells over here. I actually have 5 spells, so it's 2 plus our intellect modifier. So Scarlet Heroes have these very flavorable and very woven into the world of Scarlet Heroes spells. And if you want to use it more general sense, like I'm using it now within our trial lands of our own homebrew world that we have been using in every How It Plays videos. So you can really easily import spells again from like games like Basic Fantasy or games like Old School Essentials that I have done now here. They work basically exactly the same. You just convert using the damage table at top. And if these spells requires any saves, you use the save mechanics of the system itself. But like everything works basically as is. You can easily convert a lot of classes in this system as well. And if any classes have like special abilities, you can just turn them into traits and abilities and give them just the extra number, like okay, you have 1 in this assassination or something like that. So yeah, really easy to convert, really easy to make it your own. But that's enough of that. Now let's get into the demonstration part of the video, and we will continue our adventure with Takino and Valano, where these two are still in the Tower of Secrets and making their best effort to cleanse the tower from the corruption that is dwelling still deep within the foundations of the tower. And quickly, before we get into the adventure, I just wanted to quickly mention this game is a standalone solo game. It has all the oracles, and as one can expect from Kevin Crawford, there is a lot of tables. Definitely there are how you can determine different NPCs, creatures, relationships, reactions, and yeah, a lot of stuff, especially for urban adventures and just wilderness adventures. And there is also dungeon adventures, how you can determine what is inside different rooms, and yeah, everything you could want is definitely there. Like, you don't have to have multiple oracles to use this as solo. It is a solo system. Like, originally the system is made for 1 character and 1 GM, or to play completely alone. So it definitely is a system that can do that for you. Let's jump into the adventure of Takino and Valano, the trial lands. Last time during our adventure, Takino and Valano delved deep into the Tower of Secrets, which they now know to be this weird living corruption of combination of death, blood and nature magic. Within the tower they knew that there was this kind of dark entity, this witch doll kind of creature who were creating and summoning different creatures within the forest to attack the regular citizens of whole Triallands, basically. Takino and Valano wanted to stop this dark entity and stormed the tower. And last time they were able to go almost into the top of the tower, find this witch doll creature and also defeat it. But when they defeated the doll, they felt like that the corruption was still very much present within the tower. And while they assumably destroyed the creature, they did not snuff out the corruption within the tower. So that's why they are today still delving deeper into the tower and now trying to find the source of this corruption. Takino and Valano are still taking deep breaths from their fight against the doll witch in the second most up floor of the tower, and just taking a second. Like, oh, Valano, I'm not good at this kind of things, but I can still kind of feel the corruption around us. Am I wrong? No, unfortunately not. You are terribly right on that one. I don't feel like the source was the witch. Both Takino and Valano look around. They can see this red cauldron of this kind of blood-looking stew. this potion that is still brewing within the cauldron, and they can see how these corrupted vines are basically sucking this whatever liquid it may be, feeding from it. They both come around the cauldron and watch this horrific scene in front of them. Maybe we should take a little bit more look around before we start to mess with this. I think we have to do something for this, but maybe right now is not the time. Yeah, I think you might be right. Was it reading some kind of book over there? And Valano starts to get closer to the book and tries to keep away from these living vines still, and they try to instinctively again go closer and grab a hold of Valano, but Valano is like, stay away please, keeps themselves far away from the vines and goes next to the book. And I think at the same time Takino goes into the bookshelves and tries to find something that could help both of them discover what is going on in here. Definitely it is some kind of book of spells, I would argue. Well, it's not written in, like plain old language. Is Valano able to discern anything about this book? And I think we have to make our first check. And this is definitely intellect. Will being a frost wizard benefit to this? I think this is like very high concept magical thinking, which is also outside of Valano's specialities. I would say, I'm kind of making my own rules here, but I would say Valano will get +1 out of their frost wizard like training. Definitely not full 3, but maybe 1, because it is really crucial to know the foundational methods of how to scribe down a spell and all that stuff. So definitely at least it helps at least a little bit. This is definitely a roll for intelligence, so we get +4. Yeah, this is even a hard roll. Only a hero with substantial expertise in this field can expect to succeed, though less talented might get lucky. Like, Valano is definitely not an expert on the field that they are trying to discern, so yeah, this is hard roll. So now we take 2d8 and we get +4 to this roll. Here we go. Ooh! And that is actually just enough. We get 7 and 3, which is 10 plus 4, which is 14. And that is enough to... yeah, we got it. So Valanois, scanning through the pages of the book, shouts to Takino. Takino, I think I found something. What is it? So, I think this is a combination of binding souls to this kind of dead wood matter to make it this kind of undead tree thing, which I think we are inside of right now. And I'm not a fan of that idea, but it should have some kind of heart. A beating heart, you say? And if we destroy this heart, it would enter corruption? Yeah, I think on a base level, in theory, but that's the weird part. What's the weird part? I think the heart should be like a living being already, like a vessel, like an individual. But it wasn't the doll. So what is this vessel then? And I think Valano takes a few more pages and scrolls through. You got to be kidding me. Well, what now? I think the heart is the tendril guy from second floor. Last time we came across this kind of, well, with the lack of better example, a Slenderman type of individual on the second floor who were just resurrected in this kind of weird ritual and started to float in the air and released its tendrils around the room to suck energy out of the roots of this tower. But Takino and Valano were able to just basically skim through that encounter by not making a fuss about themselves, succeeding in few diplomatic tests, and with that creature focusing on regaining or building its strength, so they were able to just keep on going up into the tower. It says on the books here that through these vines the vessel can change its body as well and change its consciousness through the roots, so I think we were just interrupting a changing process. Very well then. Well, at least we know now what we have to do. Before we go, should we still take a look at the final floor? Just that we don't miss anything. Yeah, I think you might be right. And they both continue to go up together into the final floor of the tower. And while they arrive into the third floor, they get a little bit spooked. Takino readies his sword in front of him. And even Valano is like, is readying a spell. Because they arrive into a room which is full of these doll mannequin looking, well, statues or mannequins that look very similar to the doll which they just defeated. Now I think we need to discover what can we expect from this room. And for that, Scarlet Heroes has amazing tables. So for every floor we will roll 4d10 and see if there is any encounters, any treasures, any hazard, or any special features. So let's see what we can expect. There we have, let's roll one at a time. D10. Is there an encounter? From 8 up there is. That is 9, so there is some kind of encounter. Next, is there any treasure? 9 again, so there is treasure but it's hidden. Next, is there any hazard? Oh, actually, let me correct that. If an encounter is present, add +3 to the treasure roll, so it goes over 10, which means it's not even hidden. There is an actual treasure that is not hidden in there. So how about hazard? That's only 10. 5, no hazard. And is there some kind of feature? 6, so no any special kinds of features either. So there's encounter and treasure. So let's roll for the encounter. 3d6 and we see what kind of encounter we come across. Oh, that's kind of big. 9 plus 3 is 12. So right in the middle, we come across 2d4 plus T, which is threat. Hit dice worth of minions and elites. And threat level is normally at the same level as your hero is. And now, because I'm playing with 2 heroes and this game is like actually meant to be played with only 1 hero, I will bump up the threat level to 2, because we have 2 level 1 heroes. So let's see what we get. That is 4. So 4 plus 2 is 6 hit dice worth of enemies. The game also gives you some advice how to create your own enemies, but I'm just using my own experience here and say that we have 6 one-hit die enemies, because they are the living dolls that are now coming to life. All of them have AC of 12 and their hit and their damage die is 1d6. So when Takino and Valano finally arrive to the final floor and startle a little bit when they see the dolls, they first relax a bit and be like, okay, it seems like they are just dolls, marionettes. We have nothing to worry about. And they take a few steps further into the final room. Valano then asks from Takino, is it just me, or did that one doll just move a bit? And Takino is startled and says like, Valano, now it's not the time for those kind of jokes. And as soon Takino raises his voice, one of the dolls just starts to lunge at them. In Scarlet Heroes, normally the heroes will go first unless they are ambushed. And was this enough to start? I would say this was enough to startle them, even when Valano was able to kind of see that the dolls were moving a little bit, but I would say this was definitely a surprise. And so that's gonna be terrible for these two. I think these two try to get closer to Valano over here, and these 4 engage on Takino. So in this game you can in combat do a movement and 1 action. And if you want, you can count the squares if you want, or then you can have these kind of more loosey-goosey rules and approaches like I have right now. So there's going to be 4 attacks against Takino, 2 attacks against Valano. Here we go. So Takino has leather armor, which I have determined that gives him AC of 12. And these dolls have hit die is 1, that means they will get +1 to this attack, unless they have some kind of other modifiers, but they don't. They are just like these kind of basic dolls, so they get +1 into these rolls. So first 2 attacks against Takino. And that is 12 and 16, both hit, and they will deal 1d6 damage each. And now we will consult at the damage table. We can put it here for quicker reference. So both dolls come closer to Takino and their hand basically turns very sharp, kind of almost like wooden spear, like tip of a spear. And they both sunk their spears into Valano. Oh, thank God. One of the roll was 1, that means none of the damage comes through. So the first spear basically is stopped by Valano's leather armor. But the second one is a 6, that means Takino takes 2 points of damage. We can add damage here. So one of those spear hands comes to Takino's shoulder, which quite doesn't go through, but the other spear finds a nice little spot and it goes through the leather and a little bit blood can be seen. And that was only the first 2 attacks. Now the 2 other attacks that comes against Takino. That is 3, that doesn't hit. And then we have 15 plus 1 is 16, which definitely hits. So 1 more d6 instance of damage. That is 2, so that will be 1 additional damage from a 3rd spear that comes to the other side of Takino's chest. One of the spears Takino is able to block. So there, 3 more damage. Takino is pushing all of them back and shouts to Valano, "Valano, look out!" And indeed, Valano also is up against 2 of these dolls. And Valano's AC is only 10. Oh, but that is 8 and 8 from both of those attacks. +1 is 9, which is not enough. Valano is able to duck back into the stairs and be like, "Ah!" when... That was very good duck, even the microphone fell down. So yeah, Valano is able to go back into the stairs and duck out of the both spear attacks for now. And now it's the hero's turn. So first Takino will take his blade of the masters and tries to hit the one doll that tried to pierce him and kind of succeeded, to be fair. Takino basically parries and pushes all the dolls back and then takes a big swing. And that is 6 + 4, which is not enough against AC of 12. But now we also have the Fray die, which is 3 damage. And that is damage that always hits. Well, if we don't roll a 1, then it hits. It's basically 3 hits that we can distribute as we please. And because Takino is level 1 and these are 1-hit die dolls, we can use these attacks against these dolls. That is 6, which means 2 hits. Takino is able to take out 2 of these dolls already. So Takino is able to swing and basically decapitates one of the dolls. Valano is going a little bit back and unsheaths the dagger and tries to stab one of the dolls that are now coming after them into the downstairs. As a warrior, your maximum damage die, I think it's the D10 that you can have from weapons. As a mage user, you can use any weapons that you want, but your maximum damage die is always D4. So you could be a mage user that uses kind of sword. That's totally up to you. That is your fiction that you want to create. But you will always use a D4 hit dice nonetheless. So we have dagger, which probably uses dexterity, which is +1, and we don't have any attack bonus at level 1 as a magic user. So that means we will get a +1 to this roll. And that is 16, +1 is 17. And let's see if the hit goes through. It goes with a 4. I think that is only 1 damage. Yeah, you can never do more than 1 damage with D4. But in this case, that is enough. Valano is able to stab the doll in this kind of very sensitive spot, which basically is vulnerable and contains all the inner workings of the doll. And the doll is crumbles down in front of Takino. And in addition, Takino has their own Fray die, which is a D4, and they create this arcane blast from their hand and tries to attack the other doll as well. And now we roll D4. That is 4 again, which means with this arcane blast they are able to take another doll out as well. So now it's only 2 left. And with the second round, I think this other doll jumps into the stairs and tries to attack Valano, and the other one focuses on Takino again. So this first doll, I guess Takino now makes 2 spears and tries to hit with both of these and basically skewer Takino completely. And 4, but Takino is able to put his sword in front of him and basically like block this duo attack with his blade and just put his blade in between those both spikes and holding the doll back for now. And now against this jump spear attack, Valano tries to dodge out of the way, but is not able to with 16 +1, which is definitely enough to hit Valano. And now let's see how much damage will it deal. 3, which means it will deal 1 damage to Valano, which is quite a lot because Valano only has 4 health, so even 1 hit is quite big. So yeah, the spear is sunking deep into Valano and Valano screams in pain. Takino sees this and knows there is not much time left and just tries to make this flourishing like spinning attack and tries to take both of these dolls out. And that is 12 + 4, it's 16. That definitely hits. just from his attack alone. Oh, of course, and for regular attacks you get modifiers for your attacks. Like we could have had Dagger a strength modifier, but because Valanor doesn't have any modifiers, that's why I just rolled a d4. But now with Takino, when we have the Blade of Masters, which is a magical sword that gives us +1 to hit and to damage, and then we have our strength modifier that is used with melee weapons, we have damage which is d8 plus 3. So we at least do 1 damage. And yeah, +7. So that is 10 damage, which means it's 4 points of damage. But the damage from attacks do not spill into other targets, so that means Takino is able to take out the first doll. And now with his Fray die, he tries to do the flourish and hit the other doll as well. And with one is actually not able to do it. He tries to like swing the sword, but the doll is too fast and ducks out of the way while still trying to attack Valanor. But now it's Valanor's turn. And Valanor takes another hit in with their dagger with the amazing +1, but it's 17, so it definitely hits. And now we just need to not roll 1 from d4. And we didn't, we rolled a 2. And Valanor is able to now hit the doll into neck, and basically the head of the doll explodes completely. And that is end of the combat. Sorry, I took a little break because it was quite chilly in here, so I put some extra shirt on just to keep myself warm. So Takino and Valanor managed to destroy all these puppet mannequins that full surprise attacked them. And if I remember correctly, there was also treasure in this room. So here we can roll actually the treasure table to see what kind of treasure it is. So 3d6, let's go. Okay, that is 7 plus 2 is 9. Again, cleanly in the middle. Standard treasure draw for whatever encounter is present. If no encounter, draw M1 in room contents. So standard treasure trove. So here are quite many different kinds of concepts or of different treasure. Okay, so the problem now is that usually, so when you use different encounters from Scarlet Heroes, these stat blocks usually tend to have a treasure coding, which means if you found treasure in the same location that the encounter is, you will get that treasure. But in this case, there was no official encounter, so we don't have any clear indication of what the treasure is. So I just picked something that makes the most sense, and I think the Mage's Concealed Cache is most appropriate right now. So there is 1d6 lesser magic items. That is 2. There is 2 lesser magic items. 10% chance of a wand. Okay, let's roll that. D100. That is 50, so no. And then we also get 10% chance of a greater magic item. And that is 55, so no, we get only 2 lesser magic items. So lesser magic items are potion, scroll, or roll for greater table. Okay, and we get 2 of these. First roll, that is 1, so first one will be a potion. The second one, that is 2, so we found 2 potions. Let's see what kind of potions we find. 89. We found Sovereign Antidote. Interesting, okay. Antidote. And 53. These tables are amazing. Invisibility. Cool. So I think Takino and Valanor are basically like walking through the whole area and basically are poking all the dolls that are left and see if they like move again, and being like trying to see if one of them will try to attack them again. And I think behind the chair there is this kind of like open chest where Valanor can find these 2 vials of liquid with different colors. Ah, Takino, come here! And Takino jogs next to Valana. It's like, oh, what is it? It seems like there is some kind of magic potions in here. Are you sure they are magic? Maybe they are some kind of corruption. That might be as well. I don't think I have now time to start to really evaluate what they are, but they might be important. Let's take them with us. And they will... I think Valano will take both of the potions for now. Let's add them to the list. S, antidote, and invisibility potion. But they don't know what they are, so I don't think they will try to rely on them too much on this adventure. I think they have now been making quite of a ruckus in this place. Let's see if the tower will retaliate, because I don't think it will just keep on accepting people rummaging and destroying all the creations within it. I could roll a reaction table, which is pretty good. We could see what is the reaction of the tower right now. Or we could just use an oracle. So it's a D20 oracle, and we have different likelihoods here, and then we can just roll a D20 and we can get no, no, but, yes, but, and yes answers. And my question is for the oracle, that will the tower retaliate against these two somehow? And it's either likely or very likely. I will say it's likely, because they haven't affected the vines themselves too much yet, and they didn't mess with the cauldron either. So I would say it's likely for now. Will the tower try to mess with these two somehow? Answer is 15, which is yes. The tower will do something to retaliate. And I think how it will retaliate is when they are here looking at the vials, suddenly the floor under them basically retracts and creates this hole underneath them. And they both basically starts to fall down, and they go through basically back. And I think it wants to take these against the moth monster over here. It will try to create another hole. Like they will fall through 2 floors, which will be devastating. And I think these two both try to take a hold of these roots and try to stop the fall. So this is definitely a save. It's going to be save with dexterity. Let's start with Takino. And I think this is definitely something that Blade Master, he can use his experience to soften the fall. So Takino has +4 to this roll, because dexterity is +1 and the Blade Master is +3, so +4. We take 2d8, and now the level of the hazard, I think we will use just the threat level, which is 2. So 9 + 2 is 11. That is what we have to beat. And that is, that is 10 + 4, 14. So Takino is able to take a hold of the vines in the, I think it's the 4th floor? Yeah, it's the 4th floor of the building. And so Takino is able to take a hold on these vines and not fall into the final floor. And now Valano's turn, trying to survive. And yeah, Valano doesn't have anything else but their dexterity to lie on. So Valano will get only +1 to this roll. Oh, but that is 6 and 7, so 13 on its own +1. So Valano is also able to take a hold of the vine, so they won't fall 2 floors down, which is quite good. So they are able to basically take hold of these vines or roots and swing them. They fall down into the floor over here and roll, make a few rolls on the ground. I also feel like they can start to see all the roots like shaking rapidly. And now with even bigger thirst, the roots are trying to suck the rest of the cauldron's potion. And I think instinctively Takino rises up from the ground and just quickly kicks the cauldron on its side. I don't think the roots will like that at all. They will start to like shake violently. And Takino will take his blade and just starts to swing against the roots. And he also shouts to Valano, "We have to hurry, this place is starting to recognize us as a threat." And Valano is also like, "Yeah, I know, okay, let's run down." And they both start to just keep running on down, and they will run into the next floor. Is the moth creature still here? I mean, it's quite likely that it is. I think it's likely, yeah. Let's roll again. And it's likely that the moth creature is still on that floor. 7, which means yes, but. Okay, it is on the floor, but we established last time that the moth creature was protecting its eggs. So I feel like it's not like inertly created within the tower. It's some creature that found a place to nest in the tower, but it was serving as a function for the tower, for the corruption, and for the vessel of this corruption to like protect the tower. So that's why it was allowed to stay in the tower. And right now I think eggs are hatching, and when Valano and Takino run down, the moth creature will just put their wings on top of the eggs, and it's just protecting just now coming out this newborn. I think they are worms, right? Yeah, because moths come from worms, and then they become the cocoon, and then they become butterfly. Yeah, so they are basically like these little worms inside the nest. Takino and Valano will just carefully try to show that, okay, easy there. We are not a threat to you. Just let us go through. Everything will be fine, okay? Let's see a reaction roll. We can use now Valano's charisma. Valano is called educated charmer, but I don't think that is eligible right now. So we just use the charisma itself. So we can use that charisma as a modifier in the reaction roll. We also take a modifier of, I think we will give a modifier of -2 to this reaction roll, just because it is really keen on protecting its wormlings. So we will roll a 2d6, no modifiers, and that will differ, and it's an unfriendly NPC. So that will see what kind of reaction it has to us. 6. Flat out rejection. That means, in this situation, it means these two both are going, like keeping on going down, but the moth creature will take one jab at Takino and like trying to hit them and make them go away. So it won't actively try to attack and follow these two, but will take one jab, basically just trying to make them go away. So this moth creature would be, I think it would be hit die of 2 or 3. It's a hit dice of 2, so it will get +2 to this roll, and its attack will be general d6. So against Takino, that is 11 +2, that will hit, and Takino will take 2, which means 1 point of damage from the moth creature when it tries to like scratch both of these heroes. That is 4 damage to Takino already. Oof. But Takino won't do any counterattack because it doesn't want to provoke the creature any further, because they see when they keep going on down that the moth creature will stay on this floor and protect the babies. Protect the babies! And they will just keep going on down. I will say, just because it's epic, that they can still, when they come back into the second floor, they can see now this Slenderman-ish looking individual who has been sucking with its tendrils. The dark energy is finally now losing those tendrils from the wall and has regained its power. Okay, it's time for us to create another creature. And I will just create something on the spot, because it has been fun so far. So, what we have? We have here the Vessel of Corruption. This is quite tough enemy. Let's say it has HD of 7. Ooh, horrendous. And its AC It is floating around. It is at least 14, I would say. I think it has two... Let's say it has a damage of only D4, but it has 4 different attacks because it has 4 tendrils. So let's say that its basic attacks is D4 tendril attacks times 4. And in addition to that, you will become grappled. And when grappled, it has ability that when you are grappled, it can do a free 1d4 damage to you. And I think it can even heal itself while you are grappled. There we go. Good thing about this kind of OSR games that it's really easy to just create creatures on the fly, just for yourself. Here we have a very, very nice, simple enemy with HP, armor class, attacks, and even a special ability. Took me, 3 minutes? Here you go. And I think Takino and Valano both come down into the second floor. They see the tendrils redacting from the walls, from the roots. And now they can also hear this being speak. You shall not leave. And it starts to float towards these two. And Takino and Valano are preparing themselves. And Takino says, Valano, it's now or never. Okay, let's do this. And we go into the battle. Now, because heroes were prepared, they are able to start first. And I think Takino will just go first, unsheath his sword again, and just lunges straight into the battle. How high up is this creature? Is Takino even able to hit this thing? Let's ask the Oracle. And I would say it's unknown. It's 50-50. Can Takino hit the creature? That is the question. 5. It means just no. Simply no. Takino is not able, as it is, to just hit the creature. Takino will take a few steps back and shout to Valano, like, Valano, throw your bow! And that is the extent of Takino's turn for now. Now it's Valano's turn, and Valano is like, okay, and removes their bow and the arrow and just quickly throws those two to Takino. And we can take the bow and arrows from, not the dagger. We can add those to Takino now. So now, Takino's action was to run there and basically shout for Valano and give me the bow. And Valano's action is basically to remove the bow from themselves and throw the arrows and the bow to Takino. So that's the first round basically. And now Takino is not able to use their Fray die because you cannot use as a warrior your D8 Fray die to any creature that has more levels or hit dice than you. But Valano can use their arcane attack ability. So after Valano has thrown the bow, Valano will just look and shoot out this frost bolt, because Valano is a frost mage, against the creature with the D4. And that is a 4, which means the creature will take 1 hit. The creature basically reels back from the blast and is visibly angry and starts to lash out its tendrils. Now it's its turn. It keeps afloat because it wants to keep distance to itself and to Takino. Goes here and sends 2 these tendril attacks. 2 against Takino and 2 against Valano. Here we go. First 2 attacks against Takino, and these are both with +7 to hit, and against 12. 50, yeah, both will hit to Takino, and let's see how much damage they will deal. Both will deal 1 damage to Takino. A big hit. Takino has taken 6 damage. He has only 2 life left. And now 2 tendril attacks against Valanor. +7, and they only have to reach 10. And yeah, both of them will hit. It was 10 and 18. And now with 2d4. And both hit. Valanor is only 1 hit die left with 2 damage as well. The situation looks really dire for the both of them. And now the both tendrils are basically crushing these 2. The tendrils surround Takino, but Takino smirks and says to the creature, "Well, now I can hit you." And he swipes and tries to cut both of these tendrils with his attacks. Let's make an attack. In normal circumstances, I would say it would be maybe, because they are basically holding Takino still, I would say there is not like, I think penalties and advantages like even each other out in this situation. So it's just straight up roll against the creature with Takino's +4. Here we go. And that is 10 plus 4, which is just enough to hit. So now we deal d8 plus 3 points of damage to the creature. Oh, that is an 8, which means 11. We deal 4 hit points worth of damage into the creature. So it has 3 hit dice left. It's reeling in pain, like when Takino basically cuts both of the tendrils completely. Now it's Valanor's turn. And Valanor is like, okay, I've been saving this. And Valanor starts to create this huge shard of ice and just chucks it into the creature and say, "Take this!" and creates this ice lance. And we will actually use our only first level spell slot that we have. The 7 small frosts, which is 7 small thunders, but I just reflavored it to be frost spell. So aerial virtues of blizzard and ice are compressed into a small bolts of ice and ice storms. For each of 2 levels of the caster or fraction thereof, 1 bolt can be hurled at any target within range. Bolt strikes automatically and does 1d6 plus 1 damage, inflicting 1 to 2 points of damage. If we can roll 5 or 6 with the dice, it will deal 2 damage to it. And it hits automatically. It's basically like magic missile. 5 or 6, 5 or 6. It's 6. It deals 2 hit points worth of damage into the creature. So the huge ice lance is sent towards the creature and basically pierces this flying creature, and it reels in pain and all the roots are shaking within this whole tower. But it's not dead yet. But like Valanor can see the ice lance in the middle of the creature, and it's not quite ending the creature. Valanor can see this and is like, "Ah!" and fires the final arcane blast, which is 3, and basically uses their blast to like sunk the lance even deeper into the creature, which deals the final blow. I started to miscount the, well, I think it was only 1 left, and now it's 0. Nevertheless, it was cool. This is cool moment. Now let's take this cool moment. So Valanor is sending the final ice blast. It goes deeper into the creature and it starts to shake and basically like starts to like crumble, and the corruption is basically sucking itself in and making this kind of dark hole of dark energy, and it's getting sucked in. And the roots are basically shaking violently, and the whole building starts to crumble down. And the both are basically like, we have to run! And they start to run down into the second floor, and they run towards the halls, and they see the portal still open, and they quickly just jump through the portal into the other side. They find themselves somewhere strange, somewhere they haven't been before, and they look behind them and they can see the portal crumble. Takino is like, well, I don't know where we are, Valano, but I think we did it. We destroyed the corruption. So the people of Troya lands are safe for now, at least from this threat. I think you're right, Takino. I think you're right. Could we take a little rest now before we start to figure out where we are? I'm kind of beaten right now. I think Takino will laugh. Yeah, let's take a little break for now. Just a little bit. And there we can end today. That's Scarlet Heroes. And very simple. It's definitely serviceable and really enjoyable. And as you can see, it has a lot of different tables. It has a lot of different treasure tables. The oracles are amazing. The reaction tables are amazing. It has so much things you can play with. The basic mechanics are really, really simple. And you can play this kind of more narrative way than like I did, or you can use the grid-based movement and all that. But I think it has been made to be this kind of a little bit loose system. And again, you can modify the rules like I have done with the AC, or you can play by the rules, and you can always add the armor value to your hits to try to hit the creatures. Like, everything goes. Kevin Crawford is really good at making amazing games. And if you want, if you feel like this setting is too specific to your flavor, you can always take Kevin Crawford's Worlds Without Number, which is this more bigger, open fantasy tabletop RPG, which is meant to be more this kind of, well, it's kind of very post-apocalyptic, but it's more like high fantasy kind of game. And you could really easily just take the systems. You can take the Fray die and take the hit die and the damage die from this game and just pump it into World Without Number, and then you can play Worlds Without Number using the same rules. Because it has basically all the same rules. The saving throws works a little bit differently in that game. And also the skill tests are made with 2d6 rather than 2d8. And Worlds Without Number has a little bit more crunchiness if you like enjoy things like individual skills, if you enjoy feats, if you enjoy all that kind of like character creation stuff. It's really easy to just combine these two. And if you really want to, leave down comments down below. I can also do how it plays with Worlds Without Number while using the rules from Scarlet Heroes as well. And thank you for sending me ideas. I love to try my best to introduce as many systems and those systems that you want to see. So keep on subscribing to the channel, keep on commenting, and thank you for my community and subscribers for answering my post that I did, that what you want to see next. And I have heard you want to see more universal systems. So that's why next time in How It Plays we will look into more universal systems as well. But that's all for me today. Now it's moro moro, and I hope I see you next time.